Hi there, Beth Helvey with Couture Real Estate. I hope you're doing well today. So let's talk about some of our online pricing sites. I'm talking about Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, all of those. And let's talk about the asking price of properties. Here's where I'm going with this. I had a buyer ask me some questions last week about an asking price for a property that they were interested in. What this buyer said to me was that 3 months ago, this particular property was only asking $100,000 less than they're asking today. So let's unpack this. First of all, you do realize that when you are looking at these online valuation sites, that not all the information is correct. For example, this same person would send me properties that they were interested in, and about half of them were either pending, and a couple of them weren't even on the market. They weren't even being sold. So the information, for some reason, going to these third-party sites sometimes doesn't always get to the third-party site correctly, and I really don't know why. The other thing is this. When someone is asking a price for their house, they can ask whatever they want. They might get it, they might not. But in this market, if someone is asking a price for their house and 3 months ago it was on the market for $100,000 less, that's the problem here. Because if it didn't sell 3 months ago, it's not going to sell today for $100,000 more. I don't care what the market is doing. I've seen this in MLS several times. There are properties that have been on the market for a year that suddenly they've had a price increase. If you didn't sell a year ago, if you didn't sell 3 months ago, if you didn't sell 6 months ago, increasing your price by a great deal isn't going to do anything. Now, for the consumer, this is what this buyer was concerned about. This does not mean that prices are exploding. I mean, yes, prices are going up, but this was a ridiculous amount on this particular property. This does not mean that prices are exploding. It doesn't mean that that particular neighborhood is crazy with their pricing. It doesn't mean that you are not going to be able to afford your property. It means that this seller is unrealistic. If you dive into the neighborhood and look at other properties in that neighborhood, they're selling at more realistic prices. Do not consider what someone is asking for their house as a listing price as the value. That's not the value. So we are starting to see a bit of a slowdown. We're starting to see buyers push back against sellers. In Sarasota County and Manatee County, for example, in the month of June, too, properties sold for 100% of asking price. That means that some properties sold for over asking price. Properties also sold below asking price and at asking price. That doesn't mean that if somebody is asking $400,000 for their house, you need to bid $5. In other areas of the country, it's happening, but it's not happening as much here. We're seeing a pushback. Basically, what this means is this. Do not base your assumptions of what the value is on a property because you see something on an online valuation site that says that the property's been, increased in price or what have you. Another example is that they were looking at a property in another neighborhood where 3 or 4 years ago, the seller bought it for X, and now they're asking double for it. Well, digging into that piece of property, it didn't sell 3 or 4 years ago. This person is the original owner. And this person is the original owner from like 10, 12 years ago. What they saw was a change in title. And that'll happen too. Change in title typically doesn't cost that much, but for some reason, these third-party sites will pick up this information and say it changed hands for a certain price when all it did was go from, Mr. and Mrs. to Mr. and Mrs. Trust, or it went from Mr. and Mrs. to child, or Mr. and Mrs. to we added our child to the property as well. And when you see that, it'll pop up, but it's not a sale, it's just a change in title, and you can't take what that value on this third-party site says as legitimate. So here's what you're gonna do. When you come across this, you're gonna call your favorite realtor, or you're gonna call me, your favorite realtor, and you're going to ask about this. You're going to ask about the history of the property. We're going to look into what improvements this property has done. Perhaps they are asking $100,000 more because they gutted the place, and it's definitely worth it. We're going to look into all of that to consider what is a good price to offer for this property. Please do not take what you see on these third-party sites as absolute truth. There's a lot of misinformation. You need to take the information and take it to your favorite realtor and make sure that you can dive into it. Okay. That's basically what happens here. The other thing you can do too is I have a website, as do a lot of other realtors, which we pull directly from MLS. The properties you get from my website are currently active, and they're currently active under the correct price. You're not going to find properties that have sold, that aren't even listed, or that are pending. You're going to see stuff that is actually available today to purchase today if you want to. So I'm not saying don't go to these third-party sites, because everybody's going to. There's no reason not to. But when you come across the information, ask an expert. Don't rely on the third-party site to give you the information you need in order to make a smart decision as to what you're going to do for the purchase. So I hope you're doing well today. I encourage you to get outside if you can do so. If you can, drink a lot of water, wear your sunscreen, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.